Eileen Richardson. You guys want to wave? No. So we'll get started, and Emily's going to start first, and then we'll just kind of work through it, and then we'll move on to the next presentation. Thanks everyone for being here, by the way.
Hi, I'm Dr. Finney-Miller, and like my colleague, Dr. Holly Rice said, we are at Cameron University in Oklahoma, United States, and we are going to talk about staying connected in virtual classrooms. So a large portion of teachers and administrators are in agreement that students need more social and emotional support than what they're receiving. And how can we promote that support? Well, it comes through safe and caring classroom communities. With more classrooms turning virtual, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic, it's important that we ask ourselves, how can we transfer best practices for classroom well-being into the remote learning environment? So that's what our presentation is on today, practical applications for the remote learning environment. Why is well-being so important? In a study by Alan Kennedy in 2018, they interviewed fourth graders, and one of the fourth grade participants said that going to school was like going to prison. So academic stress like that can take a real toll on students' mental health. And findings indicate that if we implement some sort of positive psychology or some sort of well-being program for students, that can alleviate some of that academic stress and can help students' overall mental health, which is ideal. In the United States, there's a lot of pressure to focus on academics alone, and other endeavors are thought to be a waste of instructional time. But we know that in countries with better academic attainment, like Finland and Sweden and Australia, time spent teaching well-being can benefit academic endeavors. So taking that extra time to address well-being and student social emotional development can help school feel like not such a prison. And schools are a real ideal environment for addressing these kinds of things because students spend a lot of their time in school. So how can schools create more time and space for well-being education, especially with so much pressure to focus on academics? Schools should not only focus on academic knowledge and cognitive skills, but also on knowledge and skills that students need to promote their own mental and physical health. And McLaughlin in 2008 suggested some best practices for doing that are to emphasize relationships and to emphasize community building, which are both central for the development of young people. So Dr. Holly Rice is going to switch now toward a focus more on the virtual classroom. So we know what well-being is and how we can make space for it, but what does that look like in a virtual classroom, and what are some more concrete ways that we can address that? Dr. Rice?
Okay, so we've actually provided some QR codes for you all that you can, just kind of a fun way to get everybody involved in our presentation, but also for you to take a look at after the presentation if you have time. These are Edutopia articles on how to apply SEL into the classroom. And so I guess we'll move on to the next slide, but they're actual just practical applications. One way is by using Bitmojis in the classroom to increase student engagement. Another way is to provide immediate virtual feedback to parents via instant messaging. One of the articles does talk a lot about the virtual feedback in real time, rather than, it's not like an IT problem. It's not virtual feedback to help with IT problems, but it's actual feedback to talk to parents to actually get them involved. Another article also discussed just practical ways to get students involved, more traditional ways, but by using in an online classroom or a virtual classroom, and by doing projects, actually to allow the students to get away, to step away from their computers and to do these projects offline, and then to come back and to present to the classroom. One example that it gave was a little boy, I think the assignment was to describe one of his animals in the house, and so his mom helped him describe the animal and the characteristics, and then they took a picture of he and the dog and then posted it. The articles also talked about using videos, things like that we actually do in a traditional classroom, but that you can also use in the virtual setting. But again, this is just a fun, quick way to build relationships with the students, because it can be hard in a virtual online environment. So I think Dr. Richardson is next.
Yes, I am Dr. Eileen Richardson, also from Cameron University. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My role here is to I'm a reading teacher at Cameron. I teach pre-service teachers how to teach reading and use reading in the classroom. And one of the things about virtual learning is that children feel isolated, even adults in an online classroom. You want to feel like you're part of the community. And classrooms, in-person classrooms are definitely part of the community, in being part of a community. And one excellent way to do this is to do read alouds, for the teacher to do read alouds. Even in a high school classroom, you can do read alouds for your students. And there are so many different children and young adult literature out there that have these themes that you can discuss. And as you're reading, you can talk about the main characters and what they're going through and maybe some solutions. And that would resonate with the students who maybe are feeling the same way. And I just gave a few examples here, and I'll kind of go over each one in case you hadn't heard of these children's books. But one of them, excellent book, it's called The Invisible Boy. And a lot of the story takes place in the illustrations. And we all know as teachers, even as university professors, we have those very shy students in the classroom that never speak up, will never answer a question. And sometimes the online platform is best because they feel free to participate in the discussions. But if it's a Zoom classroom, they're very quiet. So Brian is the main character, and he is very shy. Even the teacher doesn't even know he's there because he doesn't, cause any problems. And the illustrator makes him gray at first. And as he goes throughout the process of finding a friend and then eventually more friends, the illustrator adds color to him. And it's really a beautiful story. The next one is The Name Jar, and it is like a multicultural children's book about a Korean girl who moves to the United States and no one can pronounce her name. So she wants an American name because she wants to be like all the other children. But one of the friends that she makes in school says, you have a beautiful name and you are an individual, you're unique. And that is part of that book. The next one is about a loss of a parent. And this young lady, Laura, loses her mom, has a necklace of buttons that belong to her mom, stress that she passed away, and she saved the buttons to it, made a necklace, and then lost it. It broke and lost it. And her stepmother helped her through this process of grief, which it's a beautiful little story. The next one is Dyslexia, Fish in a Tree. It's an excellent young adult book. And, 15% of people around the world have dyslexia, and there aren't enough books, I feel, about it. And I know many adults and children who struggle with having dyslexia. And 25 to 40% of children with dyslexia also have ADHD. So this book is about a young lady who goes through that and learns that she has dyslexia. You can go to the next one. Thank you. The next story is a young adult novel. Unfortunately, was banned in some states, but luckily in Oklahoma it hasn't been banned yet. But it's a true story about the author's life as an African-American man in a predominantly white private school and the things that he experienced in that situation. The next one is My Mouth is a Volcano. And if you've ever taught in early childhood education, there are many students like this young man who just has these outbursts and he does, very impulsive, and it kind of gives you some solutions on how to stop that. The next one is, it's about trauma. Humpty Dumpty was traumatized because he fell, right? And it's a continuation of that story, beautifully told. And it shows that, even though you don't have any scars on the outside, that you have scars on the inside from I'll call him a child, even though he's an egg, a child from trauma. And it's a beautiful story. If you haven't, even as an adult, it's a great book. And then the last one that I offer, as a suggestion, is about a young lady who struggles also with anxiety and can not sleep at night. And her mother gave her a solution about, don't think about purple elephants. And it's another really cute story that takes children from having these issues of anxiety and from trauma, and then offers maybe some solutions on how you can deal with it.
Thank you. So we are all teacher educators in Oklahoma, and so it's really important to us that research has practical applications in the classroom, because that's what we do. And so that was kind of the purpose behind today's presentation. Does anyone have any questions that we can answer? We have just a couple more minutes.